In recent news, it's official. Donald Trump is telling transgenders within the military to leave. They are not allowed to be there anymore. And now we have Scott Jennings on a CNN panel with a transgender Navy veteran. Let's watch.
What do you say to that?
We've seen transgender people serving honorably for the last several years. And what has changed between now and then? They've just woken up to a new administration who has a different outlook on their ability to serve. So I think that, if you talk to people who are serving on active duty alongside transgender troops, they're not making these complaints. The leaders in the military are not making these complaints. These are political complaints about military service. So I think that all of the courts that have looked at this issue and looked at it, and said there's nothing in fact to back up what the government is claiming here. In fact, the judges challenged them to produce evidence, and they couldn't produce any evidence. So I think it's a really dark day for our country, where basically we're allowed to discriminate against a class of people.
Scott, if they can't produce evidence that this actually does, in fact, have an impact on readiness, how is this not then just discrimination?
Well, it's the opinion of the commander-in-chief, who, according to our Constitution, is the head of the military. I mean, regardless of anyone's opinion or anybody's, whatever side you're on, whether you're for it or against it, at some juncture, the president is the commander-in-chief of the military, and he has and should have broad latitude to determine how the armed forces should be operated. And so I think that's what he's doing here. I think that's ultimately what the court said today, was that the president is the commander-in-chief, and we gotta respect that.
Well,
under our Constitution.
But I mean, to her point, if there's not a downside, and it's been going on for
if there's not a downside
years now, and I'm just presenting your argument to them.
Yeah.
What is the argument other than Trump, Hegseth just doesn't want trans people in the military?
Well, I mean, I think that the president, we'll ultimately see. I think that's why the court is allowing the president to move forward with this until it works itself through the court system. Maybe the Supreme Court will be the final arbiter here to say, yeah or nay, you can do this. But ultimately, I think the court is showcasing deference to the executive, saying that, look, you're the president, you're over the military. You do, for the most part, get to sort of dictate the standards of our military.
Yeah, and it makes perfect sense, because how many people do you see that are transgender and are not raging leftists, right? You don't see that. How many of these people that are transgender probably have a strong disdain for the president? And you're not allowed to. You're not allowed to whenever you're in the military. So Donald Trump is making a very clear-cut decision here, where he's just saying, listen, these people, I can't trust them. I know they're not aligned with what I am aligned with and where I want to take this country. And so because of that, I don't want them to be in our military, because I think that it's too volatile.
And I don't really see how you can push back against that. Again, we'll see what happens in the court.
I can.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I can. What if the president wakes up tomorrow and says, I don't want any black people in the military? Do we give deference to him on that? Well, no, wait a second. It's not ridiculous. It's not ridiculous, because you're discriminating against a group of people in a very similar way. No,
I knew you were going to say that, but it's still
excuse me. Well, I'm glad you.
I'm going to leave this one
But
alone
hold on,
today.
I'm curious. Why is it ridiculous? I mean, you just said the president should be the one who just decides.
Right.
So if he decides, he wakes up tomorrow and says, I think it's bad for morale, it's bad for cohesiveness, for there to be black people in the military, Latino people in the military, just in her hypothetical scenario, what's the difference between that and what we're seeing here?
I mean, are you really going to go down this ridiculous
I'm just.
I'm
road?
sorry. Is
I mean,
I'm
this is
asking
ridiculous.
based-
This is a ridiculous argument.
Well,
okay.
The
considering
president,
what they've already
the
said
president
about
and the
DEI,
Secretary of
let me
Defense,
just-
the president and Secretary of Defense have an argument here. They believe that readiness and unit cohesion and overall operations of the military are impacted by this. That is their opinion, and that is the opinion of the commander-in-chief, who the Constitution gives broad latitude to run the armed forces. So that's their opinion. You're allowed to have one. You're allowed to have one. You're also allowed to run for president and become commander-in-chief yourself. But until you do, he's the commander-in-chief.
I have to just say,
That's-
I didn't
you know.
hear an answer to the hypothetical, right?
That's a
I just didn't hear it, frankly.
I personally think there's a difference, and I'm just going to leave it at that.
well, I will say.
Do you believe that race and are you saying that the quality of race and the quality of
I'm just asking,
transgender are the same?
I'm just asking the question because I think you're making there's a distinction, but you're not explaining why.
No, I'm asking you guys brought up the hypothetical. Are you arguing that someone's race is the same as someone choosing to
Elena?
become
But
transgender.
your argument, you've made the argument twice that the commander-in-chief's opinion is all that matters. You've said that twice now.
Well,
So
under
if
the
they wake up-
Constitution, yes.
So if he wakes up tomorrow and says it's not okay to be gay or lesbian and serve, because that's his opinion, there's nothing to back that up. They meet the physical standards, they meet the intellectual standards, they have voluntarily decided to serve their country, to give their life for this country. So many of us don't have to. That it's the opinion without any basis in fact that's what matters more than the Constitution of equal rights and equal protection.
Go ahead. No,
I was going to say that
We love and support our troops, obviously, but the military isn't this. It's not like, you know, these wars and things aren't the same as they used to be. Like World War I, World War II, the veterans who served during those wars, phenomenal. Like it was necessary because of expansion that was happening specifically with World War II, but that's not really applicable now. You're not seeing expansion on the U.S. front.
the other thing, or there's a few things that bother me about this, and mostly it was the language of the policy, right? When you're reading at some of these words, transgender people as inherently untruthful, undisciplined, dishonorable. That's like a very weighty thing to say about people who are courageously deciding to protect this country. The other problem, Scott, is that it's never enough. It's bathrooms today. It's sports today. It's sports tomorrow. It's the military today.
No, it's also sports today, by the way.
Yeah, it is sports today. And
80% of Americans agree, by the way.
Oh, that's fine. And 80%, guess what? The majority sometimes is wrong. That also happens, right? Because the majority used to believe that Dr. Martin.
Hold on. That doesn't sound like democracy to me. That doesn't sound like I thought we loved democracy. Now you're challenging I thought the majority, whenever it came to things, was superior and it was moral and it was righteous. It's so funny. These people just can't help but reveal themselves. Like, get your finger out of his face and stop, telling the entire world that you're basically a fascist.
Martin Luther King Jr. was somebody who was a threat, that somebody who was not a good American. The majority of people used to be against civil rights. Were they right? No, they weren't. And so the whole point is when you target one group, and inevitably that line moves to everybody else. And I'm not saying he's coming for black people tomorrow, but considering that this is a military, or this is a leadership that is already using DEI as code word for black people already when it comes to the military, suddenly when you don't protect the most vulnerable, you wind up making it worse for everybody else that's in the marginalized community. You don't think trans people are vulnerable in this country?
So is it your position that the commander-in-chief should recruit people who you're describing as vulnerable into the lethal fight?
Gotcha. That was a good.
He should recruit people who want to serve and protect this country. And it's really kind of ironic considering he dodged the draft that he suddenly has an opinion about
He has an opinion because he won the election.
The good news is
Elena was serving, left because of this policy. How many people is it okay to lose who are competent, who are doing their jobs because for reasons like that? I mean, at the time, she could have been a gay or lesbian, and it probably would have been the same result as well. I mean, I think that's why ultimately they ended Don't Ask, Don't Tell.
I mean, I think
discrimination.
I think ultimately the commander-in-chief and the Secretary of Defense have to decide comprehensively about troop levels, troop readiness, and unit cohesion.
It's so funny, and it is honestly obnoxious how when you go on CNN, they just get you in this loop, and like I knew his answer was going to be, it comes down to what our president, who is commander-in-chief, says. It comes down to that. And they can't comprehend it. They can't comprehend this idea of, hey, he's the leader and we're going to follow him. But, he's so bad. He's so crazy. So now we're going to just loop the conversation and spin it back. It's so obnoxious. Like this video, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.